Good evening, everybody. I'm Lee Nelson.
And I'm Lindsay Mills. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We begin with a few updates on that New Hampshire crash that killed 7 motorcyclists. First, the Massachusetts Registrar of Motor Vehicles, Aaron Devaney, has resigned over the case. The Massachusetts Registrar failed to terminate Vladimir Zukovsky's commercial driving license after learning of a drunk driving arrest in Connecticut last May. Zukovsky has pleaded not guilty to the charges. A judge ruled he is a threat to the public and ordered him to be placed in preventative detention at the Coos County Jail.
And there's this too. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has issued a detainer for Zukovsky, who's from the Ukraine. The New Hampshire Union Leader, the newspaper, reports that ICE officials asked jail officials not to free him, citing a pending ongoing removal proceedings. That means Zukovsky could eventually be removed from the country. All right, so we are asking you, we have been all day, do crashes like this one in New Hampshire, again, 7 people killed, affect your choice to ride a motorcycle? Head to pulse.newscentermaine.com or our Pulse tab on our mobile app and weigh in.
Now, about half of you right now saying you don't ride a motorcycle, but Chris Costa spoke to someone who does and says he is trading in his bike.
Lee and Lindsay, Rodney Toothacre's been riding a motorcycle for 25 years, but he says it's time to give up his hobby. He says there are other reasons besides the crashes that make him feel like it's time to say goodbye to the bike.
I love it.
This may be the last time Rodney Toothaker laces up his boots,
The adrenaline is great.
straps on his helmet,
The wind blowing, sun shining.
and takes his Harley Davidson out for a spin.
It's great to be out there, especially on the open road.
He's been riding for 25 years, but got this bike as a wedding gift 2 years ago.
I never had to fear going out on my bike, but with my wife on the back, it's concerning. And if something happened, I don't know what I would do, to be honest with you.
After 3 close calls on the roads this past weekend, Rodney's worried even divine intervention can't protect him.
Life's short. But that's why I wear this, and I know when I'm out there, she's protecting me. But she can only do so much.
And with all of his friends talking about the deadly New Hampshire crash and a Maine woman who also died on a motorcycle over the weekend, he's saying goodbye to the bike.
It is tough. It's tough because, a lot of my friends ride, and a lot of my friends are still trying to say, hey, just keep it.
Staff at LA Harley Davidson say crashes like these can hurt the motorcycle business.
But I'm sure some see this and go, maybe I've had enough.
And after a major heart surgery last year, Rodney says he's done putting his life on the line.
Pay attention, because it's not going to be you. You got to look out for everybody else. You know what? My life and my family is more important than getting on this thing and risking my life every time I'm on it.
And Rodney's not alone. He posted on Facebook Sunday night that he was planning to get rid of his motorcycle, and many people chimed in, commenting that they got rid of their motorcycles for the same reasons. They don't feel that other drivers are paying attention to them on the roads. And Lee, I know you ride a motorcycle. I bet you run into that all the time.
I do, and I do run into it all the time, and you think twice for sure. It's worse now than it's ever been. I think a lot of it has to do with this right here.
Well, and when I talked to John Story on Saturday up at LA Harley Davidson, he is pleading with everybody, if you drive, look twice for a motorcycle. You see the commercials on TV too.
Absolutely.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about this at 5:30 as well. All right, thank you so much, Chris.
Well, it definitely turned into a better day, better conditions for a ride out there.
Yeah, talked to
this
Keith
afternoon.
at noon and it still hadn't cleared out. But boy, Keith, things changed over the afternoon, huh?
It's pretty nice, yeah. Right around noon in a lot of spots. Didn't quite get there over down East Maine, sorry about that, but we didn't think you would, and you can still see some low cloudiness into the mid-coast, but the western part of the state and into the mountains cleared out nicely, and seeing a nice afternoon. Let's go forward here. There we go. There's the thunderstorms off to the west, and I'm interested to watch these because they're moving really quickly. They're in the Champlain Valley of Vermont right now. It's what, 5 o'clock, almost flat. So they could get here in time and not die down. So we'll keep an eye on those and look at how they explode out of the atmosphere. When it's this humid at the surface, you can go from nothing to these really high cloud tops. If you look in that last frame right there, that's the top of a cumulonimbus, a thunderstorm cloud. It's an anvil that you're looking at in that satellite. So really, really cool stuff there. Temperatures, again, dependent on your location. Dew points depend on your location, but they're high, mid-60s in western Maine and southern Maine. That's where it's the stickiest. So this line of showers and thunderstorms, we'll see if it holds together. I tend to think that it will actually hold together, even though this model doesn't have it. Most of us, though, go cloudy with fog overnight. We try to burn the fog off tomorrow. And guys, similar situation by tomorrow afternoon. Another sticky day, and tomorrow the chance of some strong to severe storms. So very summery stuff, but still active.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Thanks, Keith, very much. Talk to you again in a bit, too. Employees of Wayfair, that's that big home furnishing company, are holding a walkout today to protest a government purchase of bedroom furniture to be used at a detention facility for children at the U.S. border in Texas. Most employees taking part in this were in Boston's Copley Square near the company headquarters.
And we're looking right now at some Snapchat video from that walkout today. On social media, though, some are showing support for Wayfair workers. Others are defending the business, saying it's up to Wayfair to decide who it does and does not sell goods to.
Thank you, everybody, for showing up. We really appreciate the solidarity.
5 employees at Wayfair's Brunswick location were greeted by community supporters when they briefly walked off the job Wednesday afternoon.
These children belong in homes, not cages, and it's time for people to stand up.
Jen Nappy was more than a dozen people who don't work at Wayfair but felt compelled to show up for the Wayfair walkout planned. Hundreds of employees signing a letter to Wayfair and shared on Twitter, expressing concern over a recent $200,000 order destined for a facility that, quote, will be outfitted to detain up to 3,000 migrant children. According to employees, Wayfair responded saying it is proud to have an engaged team and, quote, we believe it is our business to sell to any customer who is acting within the laws. Meanwhile, a different scene in Boston's Copley Square, where hundreds turned out, although it's unknown how many were actually Wayfair employees. Protesters are demanding Wayfair stop furnishing detention centers, create a strict ethical code, and donate $86,000 to an immigrant justice nonprofit. Wayfair confirming to NBC News it donated $100,000 to the American Red Cross. And we should also mention Wayfair also has a Bangor location as well, and it did not appear that any employees walked out there this afternoon.
All right, let's do a quick check of our pulse before we take a break. Again, do crashes impact your choice of whether or not to ride a motorcycle? And 33% saying yes, and that's quite a lot considering that 44% don't ride.
Sure. Very interesting. Yeah. Very interesting. Thanks for joining the conversation.
Yeah, indeed. Coming up, social media companies talking to lawmakers today about fighting misinformation that gets spread on their platforms.
Plus.
And all of a sudden there was this big bang and a jolt. I didn't know what hit me.
How one woman was able to call for help without touching her phone.
Guys, can you get his attention?
Yeah.
There's a pretty bad crash in Casco right now. Tell him I just forwarded him the email, but they're closing down, I believe it's part of Route 302.
Okay.
For a serious personal injury crash.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey Jeff, can you get control room's attention? Isaac's attention? Thank you.
Hello. Lindsay wants to talk to you. Go.
Hey, so Coco emailed you some information. It looks like there's a pretty bad crash in Casco, which is closed part of Route 302, I believe.
I'm incorrect.
Oh.
Poland Spring Road.
And Meadow Road.
Yeah.
Coco forwarded you the email. It might be worth a line or two just to get the word out. Sweet. Thank you. Thanks, Coco.
That's funny. I thought I had names on this. I thought I had you doing.
Oh yeah, I just refreshed it and it popped up.
Oh, it did. Okay.
Yeah.
Boom.
There we go.
Yep. All right.
How's everybody doing?
Boop-a-doo.
How long have you been a motorcycle rider for?
Long
time.
Yep.
Now, did you get involved because your family, like you had a dad who rode?
No. It was funny actually. I always wanted to, and my mom wouldn't let me.
Really?
When I was a kid.
Yeah.
And later found out my uncle was gonna personal injury. Yeah. My uncle was going to buy me a bike for my high school graduation, and my mom wouldn't allow
She
it.
put her foot down.
Put the
No.
kibosh. I
Yeah.
only found out about that many years after the fact, and I was
Really?
like, ugh.
Oh.
So when I was older, I was like, all right, I'm going to get a bike.
Yeah.
And I've had 2 accidents.
Bad ones?
Well, one of them was super slow speed, so not really. But both times I was scraped up. I didn't have any broken bones or anything, but I've been scraped up. And the second one was probably 5 years ago, and it was on 302, and I was going like 35 probably, or 30, and I was scraped up. And I actually didn't ride for about 4 years after that because of that
4 years?
crash.
That's a long time. Wow.
Yeah. But the problem is it's so fun.
An oil refinery in South Philadelphia is shutting its doors for good following last week's massive explosions there. The news was confirmed by the mayor, Jim Kenney, on Twitter. Kenney called the closure extremely disappointing for workers. This comes as health officials updated residents about air quality following those blasts. More than 1,000 employees will be out of a job. The refinery is set to close its doors next month.
Some of the big wigs from the big social media companies were on Capitol Hill this day, talking about fighting the spread of misinformation online. Executives from Facebook and Twitter and Google, which of course also owns YouTube, appeared before the House Homeland Security Committee today, updating lawmakers on internal changes to stop the flow of terrorist content and, again, misinformation. The committee chair asked about a recent doctored video that appeared to show an intoxicated Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. The video floated around Facebook for a day and a half, and Twitter declined to remove it. Executives also shared improvements they made to their crisis management. One example was blocking a video showing a mass shooting at a mosque in New Zealand.
We remove content when it violates our community standards. Beyond that, if we see somebody that is sharing misinformation, we want to make sure that we are reducing the distribution and also providing accurate information from independent fact-checking organizations.
Over the past 2 years, we have invested heavily in machines and people to quickly identify and remove content that violates our policies. In the first quarter of 2019, over 75% of the more than 8 million videos removed were first flagged by a machine, the majority of which were removed before a single view was received.
And after that hearing, lawmakers said they were unsure if the committee would move to legislate this issue, but they added it's an option if the tech giants refuse to cooperate and crack down on misinformation.
Well, we have a developing story right here. This just coming across the desk. Poland Spring Road and Meadow Road, that intersection in Casco, is closed right now. Officials say that's because there was a serious crash there and drivers should avoid the area for several hours. And we will continue to update you on this story throughout the next 90 minutes and online as well.
Indeed, we will. The 2020 presidential election in the spotlight this evening. The opening debates by Democrats running for president will feature 60-second answers, primetime TV audience in the millions, and a chance for the little-known candidates to introduce themselves to voters. There is one tonight, of course, and one again tomorrow because there are so many candidates.
Sure. Each 2-hour debate will have 10 candidates trying to win that Democratic ticket. The debates start at 9 p.m. and they can be seen right here on News Center, Maine. Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, how the power of technology is helping a woman whose car was in a crash.
All right, and you gotta love the power of the sun. Keith's forecast up next.
Alrighty. I'm hoping I can stay awake for the debates tonight. Or through all of it at least.
Okay.
Gail says, I have a Harley Davidson and I will ride till my last breath. If in an accident, I will have a smile on my face. So for 4 years now, was it like nerve-wracking?
And that's the thing, if the folks are watching it at Facebook. See, the thing is so, and I think I'm probably speaking for a lot of people who ride.
Yeah.
yes, it's really scary sometimes. Yes, you are in a close call all the time.
Right.
Every time you ride almost. You have to be super alert. But it's funny when you stop riding, you start to notice all the bikes and you see them and you hear them and you stop and look at them, and it's just, it's such a fun thing to do that it's hard to stay away from it.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
And I think it was partially too because 4 years ago, 5 years ago, the kids were still I was still responsible for them.
Yeah.
But now I'm not anymore so much. And I think it released me a little bit to allow me to.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That the timing kind of worked out like that for you.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say any lifestyle activity, any lifestyle choice can be dangerous to some degree.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I had a moment when I was playing men's league in Brewer where I got hit pretty hard. And I'm like, why am I doing this? You know, like I'm not going to play for Team USA, you know, at this point.
Right.
And now it's just fun to play pickup. But yeah, you get to a point where you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it is, I think it's safe to say it's worse on the roads than it's ever been.
Yeah, texting is definitely a problem, and that's what Steve Allison said yesterday, the man I spoke with who's organizing a memorial ride. He said that, you know, he's always yelling at people when he sees them texting and driving, and he drives very defensively.
Yeah. Oh, you have to. You are so much more alert on a bike than you are in a car.
Oh.
Because you can't let your mind wander really for a moment unless you're all alone on a country road and enjoying the view. But you know, if you're in the middle of traffic.
Well, my mom's an Elks member. They just had a big benefit from Mike Adams and Skowhegan. He was hit head on, and he was in a big group. They crossed the center line and hit head on, and he's lost a leg.
Yeah.
And he's in a coma.
Yeah. I mean, you know, if you're
is he still in a coma?
If you're in a car crash, I mean, you're going to be hurt, but if you're in a bike crash, it's going to be worse.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, 87-year-old Dottie White was in a terrible car wreck in Kennebunk. She managed to walk away from that crash, but is now dealing with some bruises and broken bones.
Yeah, luckily for her, help, though, came almost immediately, but it is how she was able to receive it that was truly amazing. Here is Samantha York with her story.
This was the scene.
It was a nice day.
2 weeks ago at this busy intersection.
I'm on my way home with lots of nice groceries.
In Kennebunk.
Bang.
Shaken and confused, Dottie White soon realized what had happened.
Apparently, a woman had come out of a road here and ran straight into me.
Reeling with shock, the 87-year-old wondered how she would let her family know she'd been in a car accident. And then this happened.
My watch told me, we have you falling at Route 1 on Kennebunk. Help is on the way.
Her Apple Watch detected what it thought was a hard fall and immediately notified her family and first responders of the crash.
The watch dialed my son in Florida, dialed my daughter in Massachusetts, and my daughter in Maine. So, you know, they could just come, they knew something had happened and knew where it had happened.
It was really helpful to get that message.
Her son James immediately called his sister, who after receiving the message herself, rushed to her mother's side.
I knew Mom was all set at that point.
He says it brought his family instant relief, knowing something as simple as a watch could provide this much help in an emergency.
She's always been independent and she's happy to be in her own home, so it's nice for us to have this communication so that if there's any kind of a problem, we can respond very quickly.
She's got a few broken bones.
I've broken my clavicle right here. Broken ribs here, and a bone in my foot.
But Dottie is now back home, resting and reflecting.
It's pretty nice to just have it on your wrist. You have the time, the weather, and help.
Saying no matter how old you are, there's always peace of mind in knowing help is never far away.
You just push the little heart thing on it.
Very cool.
Again, the technology is really good in some instances. It's kind of troublesome in others. Every night it seems like we have a story one way or the other.
Gotta pick your poison.
Yeah.
I might have missed this. How does it know the difference between you falling and dropping the watch, for example? I wonder how its algorithm determines the difference, right? Because there's got to be a difference.
I think it's convection.
Is it a convection
You
thing?
have a watch. Let's try it out right now.
I don't have an Apple Watch, actually.
Just kidding.
I'm not a smartwatch person. I will be eventually, I'm sure, as I'm dragged into it. But I like the idea that you can put your phone at least in the other part of the house every once in a while.
Yeah.
And people, like, you ever notice, even at my age, at my advanced age, people are like offended if you miss a text for an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Right.
Like, where are you at? Like, I don't know, just didn't have it with me.
It was in the kitchen.
My work phone has been off for months. Months. I used to look at the visible satellite. Hope nobody tried to contact me for anything important. We didn't really clear out over down east in northern Maine. I'm really interested in this line of thunderstorms off to our west because almost all the mesoscale or small scale models crush this line and it doesn't get to us. But I'm wondering if that's accurate because these storms are getting pretty feisty here. Severe thunderstorms coming through Burlington, Vermont, and a severe thunderstorm watch likely to be issued through New Hampshire. So let's see, but it's juicy enough that we might be able to get these through Vermont and New Hampshire in time for us after sunset tonight. And you can see the tops of these clouds rising rapidly into the upper atmosphere as well. So we'll see. It's certainly primed to our west. I think the problem might be when it runs into this marine air in Portland and Wiscasset, but Freiburg could see these thunderstorms later today and maybe even into Sanford. Certainly some of our western areas could get these in here, but it's only in the upper 50, 60 right now in Bangor, but all of us starting to see these higher dew points in the mid 60s. And that's a theme over the next couple of days that we've talked about, is the humidity is here to stay, at least until Sunday, and then probably coming back for next week. Our forecast, again, it has no mention of this line of thunderstorms that's already out there, so that's very suspicious. I think they could move in after sunset over western Maine at least. Most of us, though, just cloudy, some fog along the coastline. We fight that fog in the morning, burn it off, and then we get back into that unstable environment again tomorrow afternoon with some thunderstorms, some of which could have some hail or some damaging winds, so we'll keep an eye on those. And then Friday, we start with some fog, but we burn that off, and we start warming up pretty quickly. Friday afternoon looks hot for most of us. Dew point tracker here. Up and away. Saturday, dew point could be around 70, then back down on Sunday. Monday and Tuesday at this point look reasonable as far as that goes. So overall, it's pretty warm. You know, the interesting thing about Friday is I popped the coastline up a little bit. I think we'll have some 85, 86 degree readings. How long that lasts along the coast? Most likely it goes something like this: 85, 78, 78, 78. I think once we bottom out, it's going to be humid enough to keep us warm through the afternoon. It's just that we'll only be hot a short period of time. Inland will be hot for a lot of it, and then showers and thunderstorms still look likely on Saturday and Sunday. They're not washouts. Some of the storms could be on the stronger side. Looking good Monday, and even the scattered stuff Tuesday, Wednesday, again, really, really isolated both of those days. So up until at least the 4th of July, looks
pretty good.
Fine.
Yeah. We
can't quite see what the 4th is doing just yet.
A little too early.
But there's no big rainstorm or anything. I just can't nail down the details.
Got it.
Sure.
So.
It's comfortable.
That sounds pretty darn good.
It's reasonable.
Yeah.
I think a little warmer. I always think of this as the apex of summer.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not statistically, but a little warmer, but it'll be upper 70s, right around 80.
Right.
So.
We'll be wearing shorts and shirt.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
So it'll be.
That's the standard from which we should judge.
Right.
Probably.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent, Keith. Thanks very much.
Checking out our Pulse poll results so far tonight. Do crashes impact your choice of whether to ride a motorcycle? Of the percentage who do ride motorcycles, we have 31% saying yes. And I love this comment from Teresa on our Facebook live stream. She says, "This grandma loves riding, and I will ride as long as my body allows."
There you go.
Very cool.
It is fun for sure. All right, now this summer wedding season's upon us, and it is expensive for everybody.
It really is, especially guests. According to a new study from Zell, 84% say they prefer money as a wedding gift. 60% of men say they would rather give money instead of selecting a gift from the registry. 42% of women say the same thing. 25% of millennials say they've spent $500 or more just to attend a wedding in the past year or several weddings, but that's not even including a gift or gifts.
Right. Yeah.
Just to get
it's
there,
expensive.
the outfit.
Right, because sometimes you have to travel to go to.
Yeah. All right, check out this cute video.
Yeah, this is in Orlando. Police officer Alex Kipp was driving home from work, and he spotted his own 10-month-old daughter riding her stroller car against traffic. So he did what every responsible officer would do. He pulled her over.
I don't believe this is a laughing matter. License, registration, proof of insurance, please. You don't have a driver's license. I don't believe this is a laughing matter. This is not funny.
Actually, it was a laughing matter. It looks like her smile melted his heart because he eventually let her go with just a warning. All right,
I love that with a big smile. So sweet. There's a lot more happening on News Center Maine at 5:30, including more from Chris Costa on how at least one motorcyclist has had it with those recent accidents and all the close calls he's had on the road.
Also coming up, charges are mounting against singer R. Kelly. He was back in court today. And a preview of tonight's big debate between half of the Democratic candidates for president. The other half will get their chance tomorrow night. That's all coming up on News Center at 5:30.
And we're back with Raindrops after this. See ya.
All righty. Oh, do I? Alex, I probably don't need to bring this down, right? Because there's one down there already, or do you want me to anyway? Oh, right, okay.
Dale says, ride like you're invisible and ride at your pace.
Just so you know, you're going to start out on the left side of the desk. You guys are at the corner.
Talking about defensive driving.
What am I singing? 5:30 or 6? What's that? The crack fight. Texas crack fight. Crack fight. Texas crack fight. There is.
And Melissa says, it's not just other drivers. Potholes, roads under construction, dirt, leaves, grass clippings in the road. Motorcycles are vulnerable to the conditions. That's something I saw a lot of people talking about too on Facebook was whether or not to drive in the center of the lane because of the oil that drops there.
Here's the thing though. The other factor I think is that cars have gotten so safe. So like you buy a new car now, even if it's not an expensive car.
Yeah.
And the active and passive safety levels are extremely high. So you've got, obviously front airbags, side airbags, pillar airbags. A lot of them will stop you from hitting somebody now. I mean, so now you're competing with that plus the crumple zone factor of cars. So it's just, if you get into an accident on a motorcycle, it is what it is. You're riding an engine.
Right.
So that's one of the biggest problems, Okay.
Okay.
So, cars have always been safer, but it's exceedingly safe now. And so that
well, I'm happy we're talking about Chernobyl. Mistakes.
Wrong. They wrong. We're not going to do any TV show? Yeah. We're not going to do any spoiler ones. There's a few that would relate to something people wouldn't know.
Sure. But no,
there should truly be no spoilers in a historic documentary
That's exactly the argument I made this morning. Yeah. Although some of those things were
embellished.
Yeah.
In fact, that female nuclear, she didn't exist.
Right.
Yeah.
She was created. That was my favorite footnote. All right, one last check of our pulse results tonight. Do you think those recent crashes or accidents would cause you to change your motorcycle riding habits? 31% of you saying yes. So thank you guys so much for joining that conversation. We had quite the conversation going on our Facebook Live today about that as well.
We were just talking about also cars have gotten so safe. The delta between the two has grown, unfortunately. All right, Chernobyl is a very popular HBO series. I don't want to call it a documentary because it's not. We're about to talk about that. It's very powerful. I just completed it last night.
I'm glad because now we can talk about it.
It's got everything in it. It's got some science in it and it's got a lot of human touches. But there's a few mistakes that they made. And I started picking up on some of these and I had to do a little research because that's not my field, but they just seemed off.
Sure.
Okay, so Chernobyl mistakes, HBO. Number one, this is really glaring. It was the amount of radiation in the town nearest to Chernobyl. And so this was shown in a very dramatic fashion in the show if you've seen it. But in reality, what they found is the average dose that people received before they were evacuated 36 to 48 hours after the event was the equivalent of 3 whole body CAT scans. So not great, but not deadly. In fact, there was no radiation poisoning in the residence. Now, there was a higher incidence of cancer rates later, in some cases thyroid most specifically, but as far as immediate effects, it was not that deadly. Bridge of death. In the end of this is a footnote that says the bridge from which they watched this explosion, none of those people survived. That's blatantly untrue. In fact, there was interviews as recent as a couple of years ago with children who were on the bridge, and they're still alive. They're still fine. So there was no reason to feel that that was an elevated radiation. And then reactors aren't bombs. Throughout the series, they talk about the explosion level. The explosion, so to speak, was just the reactor and the hydrogen actually pushing its containment away, right? But it does not act like a nuclear bomb. Nuclear bombs are designed to spread out from their location. There's no scenario in which Chernobyl would have leveled entire surrounding cities as if they talked about. Great series still, though. Just a couple little sciencey
mini
things.
docuseries.
Yeah.
Thanks, Keith. News Center Maine at 5:30 starts right now. Bye, Facebook.